Godzilla Minus One was released in some parts of the world in the beginning of December and fastly got a whole lot of attention and hype even by non-Godzilla fans, with loads of YouTubers praising it as one of the, if not even the best movie of 2023. But how did the Japanese low-budget movie, which didn't even get released in that many countries, manage to get hyped up extremely and also be successful at the box office, considering it is almost at the 100 million mark? Is it really that good? Does it change Godzilla forever? And can Hollywood get out of its current state thanks to this movie? Well, the answer would be simply yes. Most people in the 70s, 80s and early to mid 90s saw Godzilla as a silly monster who just fights other monsters without much of story behind it, which is wrong, and fault for this are mostly the sillier late Showa era movies. Now, I personally prefer more darker, serious and grounded Godzilla movies, but the sillier Godzilla movies are also fun, and some of them have a very special place in my heart, despite being quite stupid, for example Godzilla vs. Megalon. However, Godzilla was always supposed to be a metaphor for the horror of atomic bombs and the war in general. After realizing that the general perception of Godzilla changed for the negative, Toho, the producers of Godzilla, decided to start a new Godzilla era, the Heisei era. The intention was to bring back Godzilla to his origins by making more grounded movies with better storylines and deeper messages, even if Godzilla fought other monsters within those movies. And to be honest, it totally worked, but pretty much only in Japan. The Heisei era didn't nearly get as much attention in the West as the Showa era, due to lacking mainstream releases in the US and other countries in the West. Then in 1998, the first American attempt at making a Godzilla movie released, and it destroyed the wanted perception of Godzilla even more. Behind the movie were the minds of Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, which however couldn't have cared less about the movie and treated the character with no respect at all. The movie was actually a financial success, but general audience and critics were unimpressed, and the fans of the nuclear lizard hated the movie even more. The idea of Godzilla being a darker metaphor of the horror of the atomic bombs got ruined. Until 16 years after the catastrophe made by the Americans, Gareth Edwards, a true fan of the Godzilla franchise, decided to fix things. Godzilla was released. It was the first entry in the MonsterVerse, which was supposed to change what people think about Godzilla. To be honest, it totally worked, and the movie used a realistic and dark approach to show people what Godzilla was originally supposed to be, and also how awesome and dark Godzilla movies could be. While this movie did revive the Godzilla franchise and the kaiju media in general, it was still a more westernized version of Godzilla, focusing on monster fights, making a more WrestleMania type of movie, which got shown even more in the following movies, which are part of the MonsterVerse. And that's exactly where Minus One comes in. The 2014 movie had a plot that wasn't bad and had some decent human characters, and while I think the movie is pretty good, Godzilla Minus One goes even further, showing how dramatic Godzilla movies can be, by adding in some fantastic human characters you actually care about. You are begging for them to survive, and it's almost as you are hoping for Godzilla to not destroy the city, because you don't want the characters to get harmed. The characters aren't plot devices created around the monsters. The humans are the ones pushing the story forward. And then the movie also touches on some very important themes such as survivor's guilt, how people should forgive themselves, and also how terrible the governments during the World Wars were, and how much they were using the citizens as puppets, sending them to their death without getting harmed themselves, especially shown with the example of kamikaze pilots. Now, I love the MonsterVerse movies, but in my opinion it is clear that the plot and the movies in general don't even come close to the quality of Godzilla Minus One. While many fans of the franchise were convinced that the humans are useless, and I always preferred Godzilla movies with a good plot and also a good message, such as Shin Godzilla, the Gojira from 1954, and also Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, which did in fact lean into the WrestleMania type of movie, but it still had a great plot, likable characters, and these characters also had very good intentions. And now, Minus One proved my point in the best way possible. So many YouTubers which aren't Godzilla fans have Minus One in their top 5 movies of the year, and it just proves how a Godzilla movie needs the stuff that any movie needs to be considered a good movie. A good idea and a good story and message. Now, am I trying to say that silly Godzilla movies shouldn't exist? Not at all, no, not in the slightest. I love the silly Godzilla movies. I do prefer the more serious ones, but you know, the silly Godzilla movies, they're still quite special in some way. What I am trying to say though is that even if these Godzilla movies are silly, they should be made for the sake of making a good movie. The intention should not just be make money. For example, Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Perhaps not the best example, considering that, you know, the story was not the best and the human characters were mediocre, but this movie was very silly and had some very silly action. However, there was still a deep message at its core, which should be to protect the earth from polluting and, you know, stop pollution in general. So it is silly, but it still has a good message, and these silly Godzilla movies should always be like that. Now, one thing I definitely should mention at this point is that Toho themselves, they absolutely love the Monsterverse. They like what Legendary and Warner Brothers are doing with the franchise. However, while they love this type of movies, they still want to remind people of what Godzilla truly is. Minus One is this power to restore kind of balance. That way, the Monsterverse and Legendary, they work alongside each other, and we get the more action-focused Monsterverse movies and the more darker and deeper Godzilla movies by Toho. Both perfectly work. Now, if you want to check my full review to Godzilla Minus One, it is in the description. And this leads me to the next part of the video, how Hollywood should start taking notes. This movie proves just in so many ways what is wrong with modern Hollywood. I think the most important part would be defined by the word passion. This is probably the most important part in this movie. Let's say a general modern franchise, for example the MCU, they often start off with some good movies which contain the work of people with passion for the project. But as time passes and the franchise gets more successful, the franchises try to become more epic by putting more and more and more into their movies, while also teasing future projects. And every movie, it just slowly becomes a soulless mid to trash teaser trailer for the next movie. Marvel has some exceptions post-Endgame, but it's sadly not that many. The issue with this is of course that the movies tend to get worse. And you know, also if I just paid $15 to watch a trash movie, which was even basically just a teaser for the next movie, like think about it, how should I be excited for the next one? Godzilla Minus One is a movie about a famous icon in pop culture, and let's be honest, everybody at least knows what Godzilla is, a little bit at least. But instead of using the fame of the character to get money, the producers and Takashi Yamazaki, they took care of the movie. They were passionate about it, and they also focused on a good story with deep messages. Godzilla Minus One might be the one movie which makes people realize what Godzilla is supposed to be, and the executives at Hollywood realize something needs to change. Perhaps Godzilla Minus One will be the one movie which makes Hollywood realize what they need to do to improve their situation. Now, I'm not saying that franchises in general need to be eliminated. No, I mean, Toho might also create sequels to Minus One. I think some of them might even be more or less confirmed, or already they have an idea for the sequel. But these sequels won't be crash grabs, and they will be made with passion, considering that Toho already realized what was happening back then when the Showa era movies ended. And Takashi Yamazaki himself stated that he needs a good idea to make a movie, and he also stated that it might take a while before the movie releases because he needs to work on hard and he actually needs to find a good idea. Now, within a movie franchise, every single movie needs to be created with passion and not be used as a way to only get money. Movies are powerful mediums to communicate, and the story and message, they need to be the core of the movie, not the intention to get money. Now, it is possible that not every movie is the best or not that great, but if it has passion and care behind it, the movie is almost instantly better than a cash grabs. Perhaps Hollywood will see that success behind Minus One and they might start to change. I don't know if it will happen, but I surely hope so. Well guys, that's it for today's video. Actually, I think I should do more videos like this one. I really enjoy making this one. In the description, we'll actually find the link to my Discord server. Please join. And also the link to the Godzilla Minus One review, which I posted a few months ago. Nothing more to say. That's it for today, guys. See you soon.